My mother-in-law worked as a production manager in a restaurant, and it was her birthday, and my husband was on a business trip. And I decided to congratulate her at work because she was working late. I bought a gift and a huge bouquet of flowers, took my daughter from kindergarten and went to her. I went to the restaurant, went to the kitchen, asked where my mother-in-law was. They say she's in the small hall. I enter the small hall, and there are 15 relatives and her friends, as well as my husband's ex-wife. I give the gift, but I want to cry with resentment. Then my husband's aunt offers to sit down and rises with the words, "I'll bring you the cutlery." My dear mother-in-law says to her in an orderly tone, "Sit down." So I wished her a pleasant time and left. My lady of the heart was a very romantic person, especially after we got married. She was very fond of elaborate candlelight dinners and long talks about love in private. But the most important reason I had to divorce her was that she did all this while I was away on business trips. Married 5 years, my husband and I are thinking about having a child. We are 30 years old, we have a stable job, we bought an apartment. We went through the preparation, tests, vitamins, and the day came when the test showed 2 stripes, joy, tears. And then 2 weeks later, my husband tells me that he's changed his mind about having kids, that he's too young. I cried for a few days, then I packed my things and went to my mom's. I'm filing for divorce. A big shoal of fish lived in an ocean. They hadn't been discovered by man. The fish didn't even know that man existed. One day, the fish were approached by a turtle who had traveled the whole world. "Don't go ahead," he warned. "The men have laid a net to catch you all." "Men?" a fish asked. "There's nothing known as men in this world." While all the fish swam ahead, one little fish stayed back. As warned by the turtle, the area had been discovered by fishermen, who had spread a strong net. The ignorant fish that had paid no attention to the turtle's words swam right into the net. The little fish with the courage to break away from the group was the only fish that stayed alive. All the other fish were captured, and the fishermen enjoyed eating them for dinner. Moral: always heed the words of those wiser than you. Bingo was a baby elephant when he was brought to the circus. His leg was chained to a strong pole. Bingo tried very hard to break it, but couldn't. He would try to break the chain from dawn to dusk, but would soon get exhausted and go to sleep. The chain just wouldn't break. 10 years later, Bingo grew up to be a big and strong elephant. He was still in the circus, but he was very sad because he was still chained. One day a sparrow sat on his head and asked him, "Why are you so sad?" Bingo said, "I wish I could break this chain and be free." "Oh, but you are so big." The sparrow looked surprised. "Surely you can break this chain if you want to. Why don't you try?" Bingo looked at the chain and thought, "That's true. Why don't I?" Bingo realized that the sparrow was right. He had given up trying to break the chain long ago. He gently tugged it and the chain broke. Bingo was free. Moral: never get so used to being bound that you forget to try and break free. This is the story of Jim, who was a very poor orphan. He was an 11-year-old boy. He earned a living by polishing people's shoes. Jim barely earned enough to buy 1 square meal a day. One winter night, when it grew cold outside, an old lady knocked on Jim's door. When Jim opened the door, she requested him to give her some food. She had not eaten for days, and she looked very weak too. Jim had just 1 loaf of bread, that he was about to eat for dinner. He hadn't eaten anything the whole day. Looking at the old lady, he thought that she needed the bread more than he did. He willingly gave her the bread. As soon as the old lady ate the bread, she transformed into a fairy. She was so happy with Jim for being such a good boy that she blessed him with lots of food and riches. Jim never went hungry after that day. Moral: good deeds don't go unrewarded. A large herd of goats lost their way in a jungle. A cunning fox saw them. His mouth watered at the sight of such a large herd. He knew he couldn't kill them all, so he came up with an idea. He went to the goat that was leading the herd and said, "Are you the goats who stay in the village?" "Oh, yes," the goat said. "Do you know how we could find our way back?" "Just follow me," said the fox. The fox took them to the top of a steep rock. "See," the fox said, "that's your village. If you jump from the rock, you will be able to return to it." The leader goat could see the village. Without thinking, he jumped down. All the goats blindly followed him, without even thinking about it. The fox went to the foot of the rock and enjoyed a hearty meal for many days. Morale: don't blindly follow the herd. Oh, a golden necklace was lost from a rich man's house. A few servants worked in that house. Naturally, it was suspected that any one of the servants had stolen the necklace. Each of them was asked, but nobody confessed the guilt. So the master of the house lodged a complaint before the judge. All of the servants were summoned to the court, but all of the servants denied the charge. Then the judge hit upon a plan. He gave each of them a stick of same length and told them to submit them to the court the following day. He told them that the person who had stolen the necklace, his stick would increase an inch. When they returned home, they kept their sticks as they were, but the servant who stole the stick shortened it by an inch. The next day, when everybody submitted the sticks, it was found that one stick was short by an inch. Then the thief was detected, and he was given punishment. Moral: truth is always revealed. Some hunters were chasing a fox. The fox saw a woodcutter and asked him for help. "Please hide me, kind woodcutter," the fox said. The woodcutter told the fox to go into his house. Soon the hunters came. They asked the woodcutter, "Did you see a fox?" The woodcutter said, "No," but pointed to his house. The hunters didn't know why the woodcutter pointed, and they went away. After a while, the fox came out of the house. The fox did not say, "Thank you." The woodcutter got angry at the fox and asked, "Why don't you say thank you?" "I wanted to thank you," the fox said, "but I saw you signal to the hunters. Your words did not match your actions." Moral: you should act and speak the same, kindly. Once upon a time, a large group of ants gathered at a spot in the jungle. The queen ant had fallen in love with a spot near the pond under a big oak tree. They decided to build an ant hill on that spot. The ant hill was supposed to be almost 100 times the size of the worker ants. All the worker ants got to work and started planning the construction of this huge and majestic ant hill. Just then, a sparrow happened to fly by. The sparrow overheard the plan of building the ant hill. He chuckled and said, "You tiny ants are going to build such a great ant hill. Is that a joke? You wouldn't be able to complete it in 100 years." The worker ants didn't pay attention to the sparrow and started working. After weeks of hard work, a huge and beautiful ant hill was finally ready. The worker ants had succeeded. Moral: even a big task begins in a small way. Subscribe to our channel so you don't miss new episodes. Share your stories and impressions in the comments, and maybe your story will become a masterpiece in one of our upcoming videos. Let's dive into the world of slimes and stories together.